So for lesson 8, we are going to move into solving problems with rational numbers. So now it's going to be a mixture of the adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing. So for our first example that we're going to look at here, each morning a gardener uses 24 and 3/4 gallons of water from a barrel. Each afternoon she adds 15 and 1/4 gallons of water to the barrel. By how much has the volume of the water in the barrel changed after 5 days? So they are going to ask us to find actual and estimated numbers here. So we're going to take a look first at the change in the water volume in the morning. So that is the 24 and 3/4 gallons that she uses. So if she uses it, it's going out, so therefore it would be negative. So the actual number would be negative 24 and 3/4. The estimated would be, we have to look at negative 24 and 3/4, and what is that close to? I would estimate that at negative 25. It's pretty close to that. Then we have to look at the change in the afternoon where it says she adds 15 and 1/4 gallons. So adding is positive, so the actual is a positive 15 and 1/4. And if I had to estimate a number with that, I would round that to 15 because 1/4 is just a little bit over 15. Now we have to write and solve an equation to show each situation. So the approximate change for one day. So approximate means that's where I'm rounding. So I'm going to lose 25 and then I'm going to gain 15. And if I solve that, a negative 25 plus 15, so they're different signs, so I'm going to take 25 minus 15, so I'm going to subtract them because they're different signs, and I get 10. And then I go back to the bigger number, which was 25, and that number is negative, so my answer is negative. So approximately losing 10 gallons a day. And then they want to know what's the approximate change for 5 days. Well, if I lose 10 a day and I have to do that for 5 days, I'm going to times by 5. And negative 10 times 5, well, 10 times 5 is 50, and a negative times a positive is a negative. So they're going to lose 50 gallons a day. Then we have to move on and actually find, and then find the actual change for one day. So the actual, we're losing 24 and 3/4, and we're gaining 15 and 1/4. So what I would do for this one is they're different signs. So I'm going to take a look at their whole numbers first, and they're different, so I'm going to subtract. So I'm going to do 24 minus 15. And that would give me 9, and the bigger number is negative, so we're at negative 9. And then we have negative 3/4, and we're going to add 1/4. So we're going to keep that 4, and negative 3 plus 1 is going to give us negative 2, so that's negative 2/4, which is really negative 1/2. So we have another negative 1/2 to add on to this negative 9. So it would be negative 9 and 1/2. Then they want what is the actual change for 5 days. So we just learned that we are losing 9.5 a day, and we have to times that by 5. So what I'm going to do is make negative 9.5 improper. So 2 times 9 is 18. Plus 1 is 19, so we have 19 over 2, and that's negative. Multiplied by 5, 5 as a fraction is 5 over 1. So then I'm going to have to look for reducing. 2 and 5 can't reduce, 19 and 1 can't reduce. So I am going to multiply 19 and 5, and that gives me 95, and a negative times a positive is negative, and 2 times 1 at the bottom is 2. And to reduce this, how many 2's are in 95? That would be 47. 47 times 2 would be 94. And that would leave me with 1 left over. and we have to bring over our negative sign. So our answer is negative 47 1/2. So we need to explain how integer approximation can help check your answers to the problem. So if I look back up here, our approximate numbers help us by checking to see if they're close. So the approximate change for one day I said was -10 when I rounded, but I got -9.5 for an actual answer. So that's a very close. So I know that my answer has to be pretty close to being right if it's not. And for the 5 days, I got -50 when I estimated. And when I actually did the problem, I got -47.5. So that's pretty close as well. So how can it help us? It can tell us if our answer is close. So we know if our answer is close to being right, if it's not. If our answer is close to okay. And then explain how we could use integers to estimate -28.3 times 47.9. So remember, an integer is a positive or negative number, but it's whole. It doesn't have decimals or fractions. So we could round -28.3. We could round it to -28. And 47.9, it's not negative, 47.9 would round up to 48. If I followed the exact rounding rules, that 9 says move up, that 3 says stay the same in the 28.3. But now, usually when we estimate, we want numbers that we can work with in our heads. So I might take that -28.3 and I might round it down to -25 because that is a number that is easily worked with. I also might take it and round it up to -30. So depending on what my other number is, what I have to multiply it by, is it going to be easy to multiply it by 25 or is it going to be easier to multiply it by 30? Remember, we're just estimating, so as long as we have a close answer, that's what matters. And then for 47.9, I think I automatically would take that to a 50. 50 is easy to work with. And both of these would be very simple. 25 times 5, think about having 5 quarters, you would have $1.25, so that would be 125, and then we have that extra 0, and that would be negative. And then if I did the 30 times 50, 3 times 5 would be 15, and I have 2 zeros in this problem to bring over, and our answer would also be negative here, so negative times a positive. So those answers are close. If I were to multiply these numbers together as they are, I would get an answer of -1,355.57. So that does fit right in between our two estimated answers. So we know we were good with our estimations. So when a problem asks you to estimate, as long as you are close, it will not be wrong because we're not following the exact rounding rule of round to the nearest tenth or round to the nearest whole number. We're rounding to numbers that are easy to work with, and for different people, that's different numbers. All right, so Louisa deposits $44.60 into her bank account on Tuesday morning. Tuesday afternoon, she withdraws $26.30 and $21.30. Does Louisa have more or less money on Tuesday night than she did on Monday night, and how much more or less? So for part A, we are asked to write and solve an equation to show the change in Louisa's account using values rounded to the nearest $5 and nearest dollar. Rounded them all to the nearest $5, $44.60 would be $45. And deposit means I added that, so that's positive. $26.30 would be 25, and withdrawing means she's taking it out. And $21.30 would be $20 would be the closest, and she's taking that out as well, so that's a minus. Now if I went and rounded them to the nearest dollar, 44.60 would still be 45. 26.30 would be a 26, and 21.30 would be a 21. So write and solve equations. So what I'm going to do to solve these is I'm going to add the two negative numbers together. So I'm going to have 45, that's positive, and negative 25 and negative 20 would make negative 45. So that rounding, that estimation says she's going to have $0 left. This other one, we're going to bring that 45 over, and I'm going to add the two negative numbers. So if you try to simplify and put numbers of the same kind together first, instead of just going in order, it might make it a little bit easier on you. So negative 26 and negative 21 would be 47, so minus 47. And 45 minus 47 would be negative 2 because 47 is negative. So that's more than the 45. So that says that she went over $2. She spent more money than what she had in her account. And then part B says, what do the estimates tell you about whether Louisa has more or less money on Tuesday night than on Monday night? Do you think the amount of change is positive or negative? And explain. So what this tells us is that she's pretty close. She's pretty close to what she had the night before on Monday night, because she deposited and withdrew all these transactions on Tuesday. So the change is very minimal. It's right around $0 to negative $2. And do you think that her amount of change is positive or negative? Well, did we round up or did we round down? So that 26.30, we rounded to 26, so we rounded down 30 cents. The 21.30, we rounded down to 21, so we rounded down, we knocked off that 30 cents there. But then that 44.60, we rounded up 40 cents. So we lost 60 cents in the withdrawal, but we gained 40 cents. So I'm going to take a guess that she might be pretty close in the negatives there. Just a little bit, but looking at our rounding and how much we rounded, the negatives were bigger than the positive change. So the negatives are larger than the positive. So I'm going to guess that she is less. Now write and solve the equation to show the change in using exact values. So we have 44.60, and we're going to minus 26.30, and we're going to minus 21.30. So again, I'm going to put those two negative numbers together. I'm going to add those. So 26.30 and 21.30. I got 47.60, and so I have 44.60 minus 47.60. These are different. One's positive and one is negative. So we are going to have to do big minus little. So 47.60 minus 44.60. I get $3. And our bigger number is negative. So our answer is negative. So this is showing that she is $3 overdrawn in her account, meaning she spent $3 more than she had. And then our last one here, does this equation tell you that she has more or less money on Tuesday? It tells us she has less money than she had on Monday night.